Saying Disney doesn't produce original content anymore is probably not much of a shock to the average person. Most people are kind of tired of all their sequels and live action remakes and other things like that, but yet Disney keeps doubling and tripling down on them. And we've seen after the last couple of years at the box office, it's actually been hurting the company's bottom line. But now we're getting investors for the company calling them out and demanding big changes within the internal workings of the company in order to try to correct the course that they're already on right now. Nelson Peltz Trian Partners, which is agitating to get 2 seats on Disney's board, on Monday released a lengthy white paper analyzing the Mouse House's financial performance and suggesting strategic fixes. Nelson Peltz and his investment partner Ike Perlmutter, who, mind you, was in charge of Marvel Studios in Phase 1 and 2 of the MCU, have said in recent months that Bob Iger has been mismanaging the company, basically just placing people on the board who don't have any qualifications to be there, but are on the board because they're loyal to Bob Iger. And that's why there's kind of this internal struggle going on with the company. And that's why Nelson Peltz and his group are trying to appeal directly to the shareholders. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, they wrote a letter directly to the shareholders outlining the problems with the company and claiming that because Bob Iger's been mismanaging things, they've lost hundreds of billions of dollars for the shareholders. Now Nelson Peltz is taking things a step further because in the past he just had that letter to the shareholders basically going over that Bob Iger's been screwing up the company and put his people on the board instead. Well, now they released a 133-page analysis of Disney, kind of going over what they did wrong specifically, and are also highlighting what they actually plan on doing in order to try to fix things for the shareholders. The recommendations, according to Trian, are aimed at turning around Disney's total shareholder returns, which have trailed most of its peers except Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount Global. 2 companies that have their own issues, mind you, and that's not a good sign for Disney when the only 2 companies that they're actually doing better than are companies that have other glaring issues as well. Trian is urging Disney shareholders to vote for its 2 board nominees, Peltz and ex-Disney CFO Jay Rasulo, at the company's April 3rd shareholder meeting. And one of the major reasons why Bob Iger is trying to keep these outsiders from the board is because he spent a lot of time cultivating a board for people who are loyal to him or who will do what he says. He's done that through either favors, just hiring people who are friends of his but have no qualifications for being a board member at Disney, or he'll just give out bonuses to people even if they don't deserve it, or at worst, they've actually hurt the company bottom line and should be fired, but he'll give a bonus to them as long as they actually vote the way he wants them to vote. And that means he can do essentially whatever he wants with the company and push whatever political agenda he wants to push with the company. But if you get someone like Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasulo on the board, well, then suddenly you have somewhat of a combative nature within the boardroom, and Bob Iger does not want that. Plus, having a former CFO as a board member could potentially compete with Bob Iger as the CEO for the company, and that's another thing he does not want to have. And that's why Nelson Peltz is putting out this analysis of the company and trying to appeal directly to the shareholders in their vote for board members, because Bob Iger has been so successful in cultivating a board that is loyal to him that the only way to actually oust some of the board members and to bring in some other people is if you actually have the shareholders agree, yeah, we need someone new in there. Among the proposal in the 133-page white paper, the hedge fund says that to achieve a better return in its streaming content, Disney should take more shots on goal and increase the creative risk outside of its core franchise, similar to Netflix. Another thing the Trian Group is proposing is to allocate funding for their movies in a different manner. Instead of just spending a couple $100 million each on a few movies, you spread that out and produce more movies each year at a lower cost. This isn't just a problem with Disney, mind you. I've been saying this on this channel for quite some time now, that a lot of movie studios spend too much on each individual movie, and they should spread that out across mini movies and maybe bring back the mid-budget movie, something around the $50 million range. It just seems to be a better business decision than trying to put all your eggs in one basket like they've been doing, which honestly hasn't really been working out well for them. And take a look at this next part right here. Trian also recommends that Disney make fewer movie sequels. Disney's flywheel spins the fastest when the company creates or acquires new intellectual property to monetize. The white paper says sequels are less risky film ventures to produce, but do not drive long-term benefits in the same way that new IP can. So yes, sequels, they have a built-in fan base, especially if it's a popular movie. So if you make a sequel, it seems less risky because you know there's going to be an audience for that. But at the same time, they are pointing out, though, there's only so many sequels that you can do. Like right now, I think what they're going to be making Frozen 3. There's been 4 Toy Stories. I think they're going to do a 5th Toy Story now. It gets to a point where people are just like, okay, enough's enough. Give me something original, because there's only so many sequels that you can actually do before people just get tired of them. So they're saying like, yes, we get that. It's kind of a less risky thing at first, but there comes a time when you actually need to produce something new for a change, and Disney hasn't been doing that lately. The firm continues, the percentage of Disney films that are sequels, prequels, spin-offs, or remakes has dramatically increased. I think that's something that we all agree on, or something that we've all noticed. Suggesting a creative engine that is sputtering, Trine is also calling for a comprehensive review of studio operatives and culture by the board, including the state of leadership process and workflow. Trine Group is suggesting that the problem isn't necessarily just with one executive, but it's at all levels of the company, and there's a lot of people and a lot of executives who need to be replaced. But the Disney board currently and Bob Iger are going to try to appease the shareholders in a different manner, because I think they believe that this argument from Trine Group and Nelson Peltz is appealing to the shareholders. So they're almost in a way trying to head that off at the pass by offering some type of sacrificial lamb, if you will. And that's where I think this story came from that was released last week about Shawn Bailey, the president of Walt Disney Motion Picture Studios, the Disney studio wing that's responsible for all the live action remakes that we've been seeing coming out in recent years. This guy is fired by the company, and they brought on David Greenbaum to take over. And the idea was that David Greenbaum is going to kind of breathe new life into things and kind of try to do different stuff for the company. So in a way, you got the Disney board and Bob Iger kind of acknowledging what Nelson Peltz is already saying to the shareholders, that yes, we know we need to do some more original stuff now, and that's why we're bringing in him. But like I said, Nelson Peltz was trying to argue that like it's not just one person who's the problem. There's a lot of people who's the problem with all these different studios that Disney owns, and you need to actually get rid of the executives at all these levels, and you need to replace a lot of these board members too, and then you need to kind of go down to the middle management levels and the lower management levels. Like you need to have like a complete I would actually say a top-down approach to fixing the problem with Disney, but they're almost trying to appease the shareholders by saying like, no need to bring in Nelson Peltz and his people, because look, we saw that there was a problem. We understand that things haven't been going good in recent years. So we fired Shawn Bailey and we're bringing in someone new. So everyone just cool your jets. But it's just a matter of whether the shareholders will actually buy this or not, because I think Nelson Peltz's argument is really persuasive in this. And I don't think this is enough for Disney to correct the course, because like I said, they have a lot of studios, and replacing one executive at one studio isn't going to be enough to fix things. But maybe Disney is hoping otherwise. It's possible Nelson Peltz won't be successful in his current attempt to try to gain a seat on the board at Disney, but he has tried this in the past, and obviously it hasn't been successful. But what's changed between then and now is the company has gradually gotten worse. So his appeal right now to the shareholders seems to resonate a bit more with them. But if he isn't successful now, then maybe in a couple years, if Disney continues to slide down this slope that they've been on, then maybe he'll be a bit more appealing to the shareholders, and maybe he could be successful then. So if Bob Iger actually wants to keep his monopoly on control of Disney, that he actually needs to correct this ship. But I just don't think the culture at the company that he's cultivated over the years is capable of actually doing that. Now, is Nelson Peltz actually the answer to the problems at Disney? It's hard to say. I think what he's saying is the right thing, but you never know until you actually give the guy a shot and see what he has to offer. But one thing is for sure, the current leadership at Disney is just not up for the job.